I'm going to show you guys how to fix your whipper snipper. I want you to make sure you go through the steps before we pull this apart instead of wasting your time. Make sure the ignition is on, make sure the choke is correct, make sure you prime the fuel. Now if you're pressing this and you don't feel cold on your finger or you can't see the fuel pump through, there's a problem there with the pickup. Your whipper snipper, lawnmower is not going to start up if you can't get fuel pumping through there. So we'll go through that a bit later on. So you've done all that, you've pulled it, it's not going. Next stage, check your spark plug. Now these normally get corroded, and especially if you have them outside. So just pull the top off and see if there's any gunk on there. That's off. And if you got white powder all over it and in here, it's not a good sign. So what we want to do is clean that up. You can use a little wire brush or a bit of sandpaper will clean it up. Just get rid of all of it. Use a bit of oil in a can. Just clean those connections. Wipe them down. And when you plug it back in, pull it, see if you've got some spark there. We know it's not a spark plug problem, so we're going to leave that aside. So these have got a couple clips, you might have some screws. Most of these whipper snippers are the same, so just hang with, we'll get through there. Now if this is cracked, see this is cracked and broken, no fuel's going to go through there. If you're pumping, nothing's going through. It's either you don't have the hose in the fuel or the filter's blocked. We'll get to that a bit later on. But if this is cracked and broken, order one of these in the link below. You'll have it fixed in no time. If this isn't your problem, stick with us, we'll keep going at this. So next we want to pull this carby off. Now you got a couple fuel lines on here. Just pull them off slowly with some pliers. That one's off. You got two behind here. That one's off. And one more. That one's off. So the first is the actual filter cover. That's all attached. We'll pull that apart. So it'll actually slide out. And that's your carby. For the pump, once you've got this out, you want to squeeze these two little prongs together and it'll pop out. And then you just replace it with an aftermarket part. Next, you got your carby here. So if you want to disassemble this all together, you got two Phillips here. You don't need to remove the throttle cable if you're just doing a clean, but I'm going to remove it. It shows you a little bit easier. So twist and you pull the cable out. That removes. Make sure this guy's plugged in nice and tight, no corrosion. Now that's got no gasket on it, which is unique. Normally they have gaskets, but most carbs in whipper snippers are the same as I mentioned before. Now once you pull this apart, make sure there's no debris in there, that's fine. Let's go ahead and pull the bowl off. So there's 4 screws under there. Try not to lose the little screws here. And there is a chance that you could break the gaskets on here, so we're just going to pull that out nice and slow and make sure there's no gunk in there. There's a bit of corrosion in there, which is fine, and that looks fine. We're going to clean out all these little holes and jets with the carby cleaner. Make sure there's no gunk. If there is gunk, grab the little flathead screwdriver like before and just clean it out and then put it back together. You should be fine. Now with this section here, there's normally a filter in there, which is not in this case, and they get blocked up. So you're just going to get in there, clean the little mesh out, and then put it all back together. That should fix your problem. Now, if it doesn't fix your problem, you could always go one step better, or if you think you don't want to pull that apart and it's a waste of time, throw all that aside. Throw it all aside. Not going to use that no more. I ordered this in the link in the description below. Cost me $20, and you've got everything. You got filters, sort of like a universal thing. It's got a new spark plug, which is great for a service. It's got the new carburetor with all the gaskets, and then you've got the little pump. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this all with the new carburetor, just because it will have all the jets clean, the bowl and the gaskets. It was only $20. It's better replacing it all. So instead of putting your old one back in, we're going to go ahead and put this one in. But the good clean, definitely worth doing first before you do anything. But for me, I wanted to get a new spark plug and a new little pump, and by the time I got them, I might as well get the whole kit and change it over, just so it's got a new life. So we're going to have to remove these top two screws to put the throttle intake. Let's clean this up a little bit. Excuse that. Now, don't get turned off for trying to fix this yourself. Try and fix it yourself before you go buying one of these. To me, it was just worth it, just doing it all at once and replacing it. I highly recommend pulling it apart and doing it yourself. The fuel line in here was actually straight, and the old one is bent, and that gets to the little pump. So what you can do is grab a pair of pliers if yours is bent, and very slowly just bend it, and you should be sweet. Just take your time, go slow, and only do a small correction. We've got a bit of new fuel line that I've got, which I'll attach straight into the center, and then I'll push that on now. Makes things a little easier. That lines up and is fine now, which is good. And then the second line can go on. Goes on like that. Make sure the fuel lines don't pop off when you're applying this back on. Let's have a quick test and make sure fuel actually gets pumped up now. This is a little bit more firm. No fuel is getting pumped up. Why? Because the filter isn't in the fuel. And you can see the fuel squirt through, so you know that's working fine now. So this is the old filter. Let's see if we can grab one of these old these new universal filters that came in. Is anything looking the same size? That one's a little larger. This one's a bit square. I think this one's more closer. But you can always use the old filters and sort of wash them out with soapy water, let them dry. They do build up a bit of oil, and that's from the two-stroke oil, or two-stroke fuel. So that filter's on. We're going to go ahead and pop this cover back on. Next, because I got my new spark plug in the kit, I'm going to remove that new spark plug. Let's put that on by hand first. Now when you're replacing your spark plugs, there is a code on there where you can just read off, eBay it, and purchase it. You do want the right size, also the right socket. This isn't the right socket to taking spark plugs off. Sockets normally to take spark plugs off look like this. I just don't have the right size for this particular spark plug, but this will do. You don't want to over time the spark plug. Let's push this cover back on. Now we can give this a whirl. So choke on, pump till you can see fuel and coldness on the finger, plus one extra. Make sure the ignition is on and pull. So what happens when you replace the pump and no fuel's coming out through? So check your filter or replace your filter. You can either pull your filter off and test to see if fuel comes through, and if it does without the filter, then it's the filter. Or the next thing is the gasket inside the carburetor. There's a little valve here that flicks one way and lets fuel through in one way and then just drops and seals. If there's a little bit of debris in there, which cleaning the carby out will fix, or if the actual flap is wrecked. That's why buying the whole assembly kit will save you a lot of hassles and working out what's what. If you like my video, like, subscribe.